All right, and shalom, shalom. This is Brother Earnest James, and I'm with the King James Bible University. And today's teaching that I will be bringing forth is entitled Consider Your Ways. So, we need to understand while on this walk, we have to be checking ourselves daily, examining ourselves daily. We have to take out the time to just look in the mirror, just to see who we really are and what we are really about, to see if there's anything in our field that's within us or causing us to stumble while on this journey. So when we are considering our ways, there are two things that we will be focusing on in this teaching. And that's our speech, the things that we are saying. We have to be mindful of our speech a lot of times because we will say things without understanding what we said or what we are agreeing to that can get us into a lot of trouble. And also, we have to look at our actions, the things that we are doing. So the things that we are doing on our walk and how we moving. So are these things aligned with God or not? That's something that we have to answer within ourselves. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So this first scripture we're going to pull is over here in Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, chapter 4 and verse 24. For by speech wisdom shall be known, and learning by the word of the tongue. So by your speech, wisdom will be known. Based on what's coming out of your mouth, it's going to show who you are. You either going to be speaking the wisdom of God, or you're going to be speaking worldly wisdom, which is vain. So let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 3. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 18 down to 20. Let no man deceive himself. If any man among you seemeth to be wise in this world, let him become a fool, that he may be wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. For it is written, He taketh the wise in their own craftiness. And again, the Creator knoweth the thoughts of the wise, that they are vain. So these wise ones right here, these the ones that's wise in their own eyes, speaking things which they ought not. The wisdom of this world, which is foolishness with God. So let's go back to Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, chapter 1 and verse 29. Be not a hypocrite in the sight of men, and take good heed what thou speakest. So we can't just be out here saying one thing and doing another thing, because we have to remember everything we say is recorded, and you will have to give account in the day of judgment for what you are speaking, whether it's good or whether it's bad. So we need to be aware of this. So let's see that. Let's go over here to Matthew chapter 12, and we're going to hit verse 36 and verse 37. But I say unto you that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give an account thereof in the day of judgment. Verse 37. For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. So these idle words, these are vain words. They don't have any substance. They don't have any wisdom and knowledge contained in them. So they're basically dead words, which is profitable for nothing. So we just can't be out here just saying stuff just to say it. And we really don't know what we are talking about or understand what we are saying, nor taking seriously the things that which we are speaking, just like we just going through the motion. We can't be out here doing that. So let's go to Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 2. And he says, be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before God. For God is in heaven, and thou upon the earth. Thou upon earth. Therefore, for that reason, let thy words be few. So we got to remember our position here in this world. We ain't nothing but flesh. And the Most High, who is the creator of all things, who has power over all things, power and authority over our lives, we are in his hands. So we best to be careful what we are saying. So I want to give an example. So let's just say you are in a huge debt, right? And you need help paying it off, or you're going to lose everything. You're going to lose your house, your car, everything you have. And you have this trusted friend that loans you a great sum of money to support you financially. So you can have what? A roof over your head, some food to eat daily, water to drink daily, and clothes on your back. And all he asks of you is you just need to go out and work. So then eventually you can pay back on that loan. And then there was an agreement made, and you promised to pay him back all that he loaned you, and that agreement was sealed. But when the day came to pay, you don't come with anything. You just come empty-handed, but just make excuses for why you couldn't hold to the end of your agreement. You didn't even show an effort to bring anything. And you don't think that's going to be a problem? So this is the same thing with God. We can't be quick to open our mouths and make a vow before God, but then don't hold to the end of our vow. As Elder Lynn says, the Most High gave us the best part of himself, which is his spirit, his word, which is going to feed us bread to eat, water to drink, and raiment for a covering. All we have to do is just put in the work. But many of us will say that's what we're going to do, and then we don't do it. Those are empty, vain words, and you will be judged on that. So we better make sure that we got something in our storehouse when that time comes, and some fruits in our basket. So let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 4 and verse 5. He says in verse 4, when thou vowest a vow unto God, defer not to pay it. For he have no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. Better is it that thou shouldest not vow than that thou shouldest vow and not pay. Yeah, that's exactly what we was talking about. If you know you're not going to do something, you know you're not going to hold to the end of your agreement or that oath, that vow that you made, it's better that you don't vow. Because he already said he don't got no pleasure in fools. He don't got no pleasure in the unwise. So it's better that we take this into consideration and we don't say we're going to do something and we don't do it. Because Most High, he's gonna make you hold to that. He's gonna make you pay for that. So let's go to Numbers chapter 30 and verse 2. If a male or female vow a vow unto the Spirit of God, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceedeth out of his mouth. So with this, we can see an example of this right here with our forefathers. Over here in Exodus chapter 19, starting at verse 5. He says, now therefore, providing ye will obey my voice indeed in works, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And when we jump down here to verse 8, this is what happened. And all the people answered together and said, all that the Spirit of God have spoken, we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Spirit of God. You see right here, this was the covenant that we made with God. And we said right here in verse 8, all that the Spirit of God has spoken, we will do. But did we actually do it? See, right here, we made an agreement with the Spirit of God. But did we actually do it? We can go right over here. Over here, a few chapters later in Exodus 32. And let's look at what happened. Let's look at what happened right here. In Exodus 32, starting at verse 1, going down to verse 4. And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him, Up, make us gods, these idols, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we would not what is become of him. Verse 2. And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings, which are in the ears of your wives, of your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me. And all the people break off the golden earrings which were in the ears, which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron. And he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with a graven tool, after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. See, we sat right there and made a molten calf. We started worshiping these idols after we just agreed with the Most High that we were going to do everything that he said we were going to do. And we turned right around and still did this. That goes to show our ignorance. But that just comes with a price to pay, just like we seen over there in Matthew 12 and 37. Let's go back and hit that real quick. Let's go back and hit Matthew 12:37. For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. See, this is the problem. But what we need to understand is, regardless of that same vow that our forefathers made over there, God don't change. That same thing stands for us today. He never broke his covenant with his people. We just got to pick up the ball. God don't change. He's not going to alter anything that's going from his lips. He's just going to overturn, and overturn. So we can see that. We can see that over in Ezekiel chapter 21 and verse 27. This is what he's saying. He said, I will overturn it, and it shall be no more until he come whose right it is, and I will give it him. So we need to make sure that we are understanding what we are saying before we say it, because we don't want to play this game, because this is our very lives that's on the line here. So let's go to Matthew chapter 18 and verse 18. Verily I say unto you, whatsoever shall ye bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. So if you bind something here, it's going to be bound in heaven. So you be kept under that obligation to hold to the end of that vow. So we need to make sure we are understanding and comprehending clearly what's being said unto us before we just sit there and make an agreement with God and don't hold to it, because he's going to make you pay for that. You're not going to get around that. So we just need to make sure that we're being mindful of these things. So let's go to Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 13. He that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is a folly and shame unto him. Let's go to Ecclesiasticus or Sirach chapter 3 and verse 25. Without eyes, so without understandings, thou shalt want light. Profess not the knowledge, therefore, that thou hast not. See, he telling you right here, we can't be out here professing some knowledge that we really don't have. That's just pride. We need to be willing to clearly understand what's being said to us before we just have a response. If you don't know or you're not sure about something, the best thing that you can do is just don't say anything at all. That's just the point. So let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 11, down to verse 13. He says, be swift to hear, and let thy life be sincere, and with patience give answer. Providing thou hast understanding, answer thy neighbor. If not, lay thy hand upon thy mouth. Verse 13. Honor and shame is in talk, and the tongue of man is his fall. So we should always be swift to hear and being slow to speak. A lot of times we like to just have a quick response to things just to say we know something, but really don't know it all. For example, it's just like being in a class. If you aren't absolutely sure that you have an answer to a question that the teacher asked pertaining to a particular topic, don't just sit there and throw out a guess. That's foolish. And what exactly does that prove? That doesn't prove anything. We need to consider what we are saying before we say anything and just think on it. Meditate on it first. And if you don't have a concrete answer, it's best to just not say anything at all and just be quiet. And don't just throw out a guess. Don't just throw out opinions. I mean, we can see that. What he says over here in Sirach chapter 3 and back to verse 24. For many are deceived by their own vain opinion, full thought, and an evil suspicion has overthrown their judgment. So even if we out here speaking with people, we shouldn't be using our own thoughts and understandings because that's just vain and it's profitable for nothing. And that goes right back to those idle words. They're empty, they're dead, worthless words. So we need to make sure we're not saying things from our own opinions, our own thoughts, what we think. So let's go over here to Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 20. Seest thou a man that is hasty in his words? There is more hope of a fool than in him. Job chapter 15, verse 5 and verse 6. For thy mouth uttereth thine iniquity, and thou choosest the tongue of the crafty. Verse 6. Thy own mouth condemneth thee, and not I. Yea, thy own lips testify against thee. And that's exactly what will happen. So let's go to James chapter 3, verse 8 down to verse 10. He says, but the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Therewith bless we God, even the Father, the Creator, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of God. Verse 10. Out of the same mouth proceedeth blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not so to be. How are we going to do that? How are we going to bless God? How are we going to bless and curse in the same mouth? We saying, all matter of fact, I mean, you got a lot of people. Like, there's a lot of people that can walk around here, especially I've seen this a lot of times at my job. And this is mainly coming from Christians with this type of mindset. You know, people will swear up and down how much they love God. They'll be like, oh, I love God. He's done this for me. Oh, he's done that. Oh, I'm so blessed. And the next thing you know, for whatever reason, somebody done said or did something that you didn't like. And now you saying out of that same mouth, now you looking at that person saying, oh, I'm about to give them a piece of my mind. Now what? And then you cursing them out. You speaking evil about them. You saying all these things about this person. I mean, yeah, this is what we do. How you going to sit there and you going to speak one way, saying, oh, you saying this and that. Oh, God doing this for me. Oh, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed and whatever. Now you turn around and looking at a person who you got a problem with, and now you're going to speak all these unruly things towards this other individual. I mean, this is what we do. But then we just turn right around and say how much we love God. And that speech, like that comes directly from the heart of man. And we're going to see that. We're going to see that over here in Matthew. Matthew chapter 15. Verse 8. Verse 18. Matthew 15, verse 18. He says, but those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defile the man. See, this is what's going to defile you, your own speech. And that comes forth within, from the heart, from our own desires. We shouldn't be speaking things from our own desires. Because he already said this about the desires, the thoughts, the imaginations of man. He already said this in the beginning. In Genesis chapter 6 and verse 5. And God saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. The thoughts of man's heart was only evil continually. So let's look at Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 9. The heart. The heart is deceitful above all things. Who can know it? So the Spirit of God, he's going to search the heart. And he knows every thought and intention of man. So you will be found out. Your speech going to give you away. Your speech going to give you away and show who you really are. We can even see an example of that. About that speech going to give you away. We can see that in Matthew chapter 26. Over here in verse 73, you can see how they did Peter. Right here, Matthew 26, verse 73. It says, and after a while came unto him they that stood by, and said unto Peter, surely thou art in your perfection and beauty one of them. Yeah, Peter, you with them. I know you rolling with them. Why? He says, for thy speech bewrayeth thee. His speech gave him away. His speech let him know exactly who he was. So let's keep going. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 18, starting at verse 2, and then we'll go down to verse 6 and verse 7. Verse 2, a fool have no delight in understanding, but that his heart may discover itself. Verse 6. A fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calleth for sore strokes. Verse 7. A fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul. So we can clearly see right here in the Bible that a fool is going to do this. This is one who's unwise. You'll get your own self caught up, being quick to have something to say, especially with no wisdom and understanding behind your speech, which can lead to your own destruction. Let's go over here back to Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 23 and verse 12. He says, there is a word that is clove about with death. God grant that it be not found in the heritage of Jacob. For all such things shall be far from the godly, and they shall not wallow in their sins. Now we should clearly see by just your speech can get you in a world of trouble. Your speech can cause your destruction. Your speech can cause you to be killed. That's why I keep reiterating, we have to be watching what we're saying. We have to be mindful of what's coming out of our mouth, because it's coming directly from the heart, the thoughts and the intentions of the mind of man. We have to be watching what we're saying. So Let's go to Job, chapter 9, and verse 20. If I justify myself, my own mouth shall condemn me. If I say I am perfect, it shall also prove me perverse. Exactly the point. So, who is it that can say they are perfect? Who is it that can say that they are blameless? I mean, shoot, I know I can't say that. Who is it that can say that they ain't did no sin? Because he telling us right here. He told us right here over in Romans. Romans chapter 3, verse 23. He says, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. But I guarantee you, there will be some people who will sit right there and say in their heart, that I ain't sin. So remember, the fool, he gonna speak from his own heart. And they gonna sit right there and say, well, I ain't sin. I don't think I sin. Okay, so let's see what the Bible got to say. Let's go to 1 John chapter 1, verse 8 down to verse 10. Providing we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Verse 10. If we say that we have not sinned, we make him a liar, and his word is not in us. So if there's anybody here who's sat there, who's going to sit there and say that they ain't sinned or they ain't never sinned, guess what? That word, that truth ain't in you. He's let you know that, point blank, period. So we need to acknowledge and confess our sins before God. Don't go around here thinking you perfect and you ain't did nothing wrong. Because remember what he said, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. So if we was considering these things, what we are saying, we could avoid putting ourselves in this type of predicament. This is a self-righteous behavior, and we have to realize that we don't know everything. There's always room for growth. Going around here thinking you know it all, thinking you set, thinking you just all good, I mean, that can cause some serious problems. So let's go over here to Ecclesiasticus chapter 5, verse 1 down to verse 3. Set not thy heart upon thy goods, and say not, I have enough for my life. Verse 2. Follow not thy own mind and thy strength to walk in the ways of thy heart. Verse 3. And say not, who shall control me for my works? For the Creator shall surely revenge thy pride. Yeah. So let's go to Psalms chapter 12, verse 2 down to verse 4. They speak vanity, everyone with his neighbor. With flattering lips and with a double heart do they speak. The Spirit of God shall cut off all flattering lips, and the tongue that speaketh proud things, who have said, with our tongue we will prevail. Our lips are our own. Who is Lord over us? Who is ruler over us? This is the same thing they just said over there in Sirach, in Ecclesiasticus. Who shall control me for my works? But he already said, the Creator, he's going to revenge that pride. We see here in verse 3, right over here in Psalms, the Spirit of God shall cut off all flattering lips and the tongue that speaketh proud things. But many of us that's doing this, we think we're going to get away with it. But that's not the case. We got to remember that the Spirit of God is long suffering and he is not slack. We can see that. We're going to go over here to 2 Peter. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8 and 9. And he says, but beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Creator as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. Verse 9. The Creator is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, full thought, but is long suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. So don't think the Creator don't know. Don't think the Lord don't know. Don't think he forgot. He ain't forget. We just got to understand that he's given us this opportunity to get it right. But the thing is, a lot of us is not going to change. Let's go to Revelations chapter 3, verse 15 down to verse 17. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would that thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art in your perfection of beauty lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Verse 17. Because thou sayest, I am rich, and increase with goods, and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched, and miserable, and poor, and blind, and naked. I mean, this is what we do. We can't help it. We not even recognizing the fact that we are in need of help. But that just goes to show how strong pride can be. I mean, pride is a killer. So let's go over here. Let's look at this right quick so we can see an example of how strong pride can really be. So let's go to Jeremiah chapter 44. And we're going to start at verse 11 and take it down to verse 17. So verse 11, therefore, for that reason, thus saith the Spirit of God of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, remember, I will set my face against you for evil, and to cut off all Judah. Verse 12. And I will take the remnant of Judah that have set their faces to go into the land of Egypt, into the house of bondage, to sojourn there, and they shall all be consumed, and fall in the land of Egypt. They shall even be consumed by the sword and by the famine. They shall die, from the least even unto the greatest, by the sword and by the famine. And they shall be an execration and an astonishment and a curse and a reproach. For I punish them that dwell in the land of Egypt, as I have punished Jerusalem, by the sword, by the famine, and by the pestilence. Verse 14. So that none of the remnant of Judah, which are gone into the land of Egypt to sojourn there, shall escape or remain, that they shall return into the land of Judah, to the which they have a desire to return to dwell there, for none shall return, but such as shall escape. All right, in verse 15. So let's see what happened. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burnt incense unto other gods, so unto these other idols, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, as for the word that thou hast spoken to us in the name, in the way of the Spirit of God, we will not hearken unto thee. Verse 17. But we will certainly do whatsoever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings and our princes, in the cities of Judah, and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of victuals, and were well, and saw no evil. I mean, if this right here is not crazy, I don't know what is. And the problem is, when we do stuff like this, we thinking we attacking that prophet, and we think we attacking that teacher, but that prophet is just a mouthpiece. He's just a vessel. It's what's in him that we're really attacking, and what we really are battling against is Christ. And we can even see that over here with Samuel. So let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 8 and verse 7. We can see this. It says, and the Spirit of God said to Samuel, hearken unto the voice of the people, and all that they say unto thee. For they have not rejected thee. No, they ain't rejecting you, Samuel. But what? They have rejected me, that I shall not reign over them. So that's what's going on. So let's go back over here to Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 10. He letting us know right here. Verse 10. They are not humbled. Yeah. Even unto this day, even unto today. Neither have they feared, nor walked in my law, nor in my statutes that I set before you and before your fathers. Malachi chapter 3, verse 13 down to verse 15. Your words have been stout against me, saith the Spirit of God. Yet ye say, what have we spoken so much against thee? Ye have said, it is vain to serve God. And what profit is it that we have kept his ordinance, and that we have walked mournfully before the Spirit of God of hosts? And now we will call the proud happy. Yea, they that work wickedness are set up. Yea, they that tempt God are even delivered. See, this is the mindset of the proud. This is what we saying. This is what we thinking, and that's not the case. This is the mindset of a lot of people, believing that they can live their own way and say these things and get away with it because they believe ain't nothing happening to them yet. Okay, but he let you know right over here in Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 11 down to verse 13. Because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore, the heart, see, there go their heart again. The heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. Verse 12. Though a sinner do evil 100 times, and his days be prolonged, yet surely I know that it shall be well with them that fear God, that desire God, which fear before him. Verse 13. But it shall not be well with the wicked, neither shall he prolong his days, which are as a shadow, because he feareth not before God. So he letting you know right there, because the wicked ones, the ones that's doing this, believing that they're going to get away with things because that sentence isn't being executed speedily, that's fine. That day will come. That you're not going to get away from that, because God's not mocked. We can see that. Let's go over to Galatians chapter 6 and verse 7. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Verse 8. For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. But he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap everlasting life. So we can clearly see right here the repercussions that comes with speaking in error, not considering our words. We have to slow down and be mindful of everything that we are doing and not speaking from our own desires. But we need to understand where our speech should be coming from, because what we trying to do, we trying to sow to the Spirit. So what? We can reap life everlasting. That's what we looking for. That should be our hope. So let's go to Job chapter 6 and verse 24. Teach me, and I will hold my tongue, and cause me to understand wherein I have erred. So this is how we should be approaching things. This is how we should approach everything. We want to be taught by the word, not by man, but through the Spirit, so we can correct our errors. Let's go to Psalms chapter 39 and verse 1. I said, I will take heed to my ways, that I sin not with my tongue. I will keep my mouth with a bridle, while the wicked is before me. Let's go to James. James chapter 1 and verse 26. If any man, any male or female among you, seem to be religious, and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain. So as Jews, so as these followers of Christ, this is a lifestyle. We're supposed to be practicing righteousness and applying these things that we are learning on a daily basis. So he said, like, if you can't bridle your tongue, meaning you ain't got no control, you ain't got no restraint over your customs and your ways, then you deceiving yourself. And what you doing is vain, is worthless. So we got to show some control over what we saying and what we doing. So let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 19 and verse 6. He that can rule his tongue shall live without strife, and he that hateth babbling shall have less evil. Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, chapter 37 and verse 18. Four manner of things appear, good and evil, life and death, but the tongue ruleth over them continually. Ecclesiasticus chapter 20 and verse 5. There is one that keepeth silence and is found wise, and another by much babbling, so this one who's always running his mouth becometh hateful. Verse 6 and verse 7. Some man holdeth his tongue, because he have not to answer, and some keepeth silence, knowing his time. Verse 7. A wise man will hold his tongue till he see opportunity, but a babbler and a fool will regard no time. Yeah, because that babbler, he always gonna have something to say. Always gonna have something to say. But we got to remember, it's a time and place for everything. We know that. Let's go over here real quick to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. He says in verse 1, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. So we're going to go down to verse 7 real quick, because it's the one I want. Verse 7. A time to rent and a time to sow. This the part. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. So he let you know it's a time and place for these things. But the fool not going to regard that. He's going to say what he want to say, when he want to say it, and however he want to say it. And that goes to show you the ones that's like this ain't considering a thing. So we got to learn how to be wise. But that wisdom is only given from God. So let's go over here right back to Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, chapter 32 and verse 8. Let thy speech be short, comprehending much in few words. Be as one that knoweth, yet holdeth his tongue. Let's go to Exodus, chapter 4 and verse 12. Now, therefore, go, and I will be with thy mouth, and teach thee what thou shalt say. So he letting you know right here. See, the Spirit of God is going to do this. He's saying, I will be with thy mouth and teach thee what thou shalt say. He's going to give you that utterance on what to say. So let's go to Luke. Let's go to Luke, chapter 21 and verse 15. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. So this wisdom is from the Most High God. That's eternal. No man can take that away from you. Man can say whatever he want to say, But that word has dominion over all things. And it ain't nothing that a man can do to destroy that word. So let's keep that in mind. So let's go over here to Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 59 and verse 21. As for me, this is my covenant with them, saith the Spirit of God. Full thought. My spirit that is upon thee, and my words which I have put in thy mouth, shall not depart out of thy mouth, nor out of the mouth of thy seed, nor out of the mouth of thy seed's seed, saith the Spirit of God, from henceforth and forever. Man, look, this is beautiful, man. This is the God that we are serving. This word that he's given us shall not depart from us. He's letting us know it's going to be passed down from generation to generation, from henceforth and forever. That's everlasting. I mean, look at us now. We speaking the same word that was given to our forefathers thousands of years ago. And we right here today speaking that same word. That's a beautiful thing. So we got to make sure that we out here speaking in truth and righteousness, the wisdom from God. So let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 23 and verse 2. The Spirit of the Lord spake by me, and his word was in my tongue. Let's go to Psalms chapter 81 and verse 10. I am the Spirit of God, thy guide, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Open thy mouth wide, and I will fill it. And so he's saying he's going to fill you up with that knowledge that you're going to put out and speak. He's going to do it. So let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 15. Verse 1 down to verse 3. Behold, remember, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Creator, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Verse 3, fear not the imaginations against thee. Let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. Don't fear them. Don't let them trouble you, the ones that are speaking against you. Why? Because he already told you. He said, I'm going to give you a mouth of wisdom, which your adversary shall not gainsay nor resist. So let's go to Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 6 down to verse 8. Then said I, Creator, God, remember, I cannot speak, for I am a child. Verse 7. But the Spirit of God said unto me, say not, I am a child, for thou shalt go to all that I shall send thee, and whatsoever I command thee, thou shalt speak. Be not afraid of their faces, for I am with thee to deliver thee, saith the Spirit of God. Once again, he already told us, I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which your adversaries will not be able to gainsay nor resist. So don't fear them. Don't be afraid of them. So let's go down to verse 9 and verse 10. Then the Spirit of God put forth his hand. He put forth his power and touched my mouth. And the Spirit of God said unto me, behold, remember, I have put my words in thy mouth. See, I have this day set thee over the nations and over the kingdoms to root out and to pull down and to destroy and to throw down, to build and to plant. This is exactly what we need to be doing. The Spirit of God put his word in our mouth. And he said his word ain't going to come back void. It's going to accomplish. Matter of fact, let's go over and hit that real quick. Let's hit that scripture real quick while I'm talking about it. So let's go to Isaiah chapter 55 and verse 11. He says, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I send it. Yeah, so that word is going to go forth in the thing where he sent it, and that's us. And what he say? To what? Pull down and destroy. To throw down these false doctrines, these idols, and these ways of the flesh, and to build up and plant this word. We need to be building these houses, building up our temples, speaking the truth, planting this seed, which is the word in the hearts, the desires of those who are seeking after righteousness, who will be receptive of the word of truth. So we can't be out here afraid to go out and speak this word. So let's go to Ephesians. Chapter 6, verse 19 and verse 20. And for me, that utterance may be given unto me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel, the mystery of the message, for which I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. Let's go to Matthew chapter 10 and verse 20. For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you. So we got to keep that in mind. We just vessels, but the glory, the praise, and the honor goes to the one who's doing the work. So we don't need to be out here boasting on men when it's actually what's inside the man that's doing the work. And that's the Spirit of the Father. That's the word. That's doing the work. That's what's speaking. That's the wisdom from God. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 42 and verse 8. He says, I am the Spirit of God. That is my name. That is my way. And my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven images. So he ain't going to give his glory. He ain't give his praise to graven images. He ain't going to give it to anything. He ain't give it to no man. Everything belongs to the Most High God. So we got to keep that in mind while we out here on this journey. And we have to take a look at the actions that we are taking while we on this walk. We have to look at the way we doing things and how we moving. Are we walking in the Spirit? Are we living in agreement with the ways of God? We can't get it. We can't be puffed up out here and lift up our hearts to do evil. It's because those temptations are always present. Why? Because we in the flesh. And like Elder Johnson says, if Satan can't get you on big things, he'll try to get you on the small things. He try to get you on those little things. So we have to be mindful of everything. I mean, I don't care what it is. So let's go over here to Ecclesiasticus. Ecclesiasticus or Sirach. Chapter 5 and verse 15. He tell you right here. Be not ignorant of anything in a great matter or small. So we got to make sure we're not ignorant of anything. We need to check everything. Be mindful of everything. So we have to look at what we're doing. So let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 30. He says, exalt not thyself, lest thou fall, and bring dishonor upon thy soul. And so God discover thy secrets, and cast thee down in the midst of the congregation, because thou camest not in the truth to the fear of the Creator. But thy heart is full of deceit. Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 23. A man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. Let's go back to Ecclesiasticus. Chapter 7, verse 5 and 6. Justify not thyself before the Lord, before the Creator, and boast not of thy wisdom before the king. So we can't be doing that. Verse 6, seek not to be judged, being not able to take away iniquity, lest at any time thou fear the person of the mighty and lay a stumbling block in the way of thy uprightness. So we don't want to get caught up in this. We can't get caught out here boasting on ourselves. The Most High is not a respecter of persons. So it don't matter how much knowledge you got. Just as quick he raised you up, he'll bring you low. He'll bring you right back down just as quick. So just because we got a little knowledge, let's make sure we're not walking around here acting like our poop don't stink. Because best believe you will get checked. And I know that firsthand. And it ain't cool. I promise you, it ain't cool. But matter of fact, we can even look at what Paul said. He even besought this to depart from him. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 6 and verse 7. He says, for though I would desire the glory, I shall not be a fool. For I would say the truth, but now I forbear, lest any man should think of me above that which he seeth me to be, or that he heareth of me, and lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan, to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. So he letting you know right here, you exalt yourself, you go around here walking with that pride, you will get checked. And it's not going to be pretty. So that's something that we got to keep in mind, something that we checking to make sure that we're not doing. So let's go to Galatians chapter 6, verse 3 and 4. For if a man think himself to be something, when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. But let every man prove his own work, and then shall he have rejoicing in himself alone, and not in another. Let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 3 and verse 18. The greater thou art, so the greater thou in your perfection and beauty, the more humble thyself, and thou shalt find favor before the Lord, before the Creator. So he's saying the greater thou art, the more we ought to humble ourselves, the more we ought to be willing to learn and draw closer to God. Not out here thinking we know everything, not out here trying to show people everything you know, not out here trying to challenge people, and not out here trying to rule over people. He tell you this. Matter of fact, let's go over here to 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 2 and 3. Feed the flock of God, which is among you, taking oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind. Verse 3. Neither as being lords, so these rulers over God's heritage, but being examples to the flock. We should be out here being examples, being stewards. We're supposed to be caring for God's people, helping each other out. We're supposed to be being the light of the world. So we can't ever think we too good to not be taught anything. So let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 19 and verse 24. He that have small understanding and fear of God and desire of God is better than one that have much wisdom and transgressive the law of the Most High. So what's the point of having much wisdom and being transgressor? It literally makes no sense. It's just like a bucket with a hole in it. You can fill it up as much as you want, but I promise you, it's going to lose everything that it gained. Why? Because it's not solid. So let's go to Proverbs chapter 15 and verse 16. Better is little with the fear, the desire of the Creator, than great treasure and trouble therewith. Let's go to Psalms chapter 37 and verse 16. a little that a righteous man have is better than the riches of many wicked. So we need to learn to be content with what we have and be grateful for the opportunity to be partakers of this word. He didn't have to give us this opportunity. He could have knocked us off a long time ago, but we here, and we need to make the best of it and strive for the truth and be grateful for what we have. So let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 7, verse 8. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. Verse 8, and having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. Philippians chapter 4 and verse 12. I know both how to be abased, and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things, I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. So we can't be walking around out here thinking we have it all when there's always something to learn. We're going to be forever learning while on this journey. So we need to be grateful every day. We need to wake up. When we wake up from our sleep, that's another chance. That's another opportunity to learn something new. That's another opportunity to get it right. So let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 10 and verse 27. Better is he that laboreth and aboundeth in all things than he that boasteth and wanteth bread. So we should be out here putting in that work. What's the point of being out here boasting and wanting bread? Being in need of knowledge. What's the point of that? What's going to profit that? Let's hit verse 26 real quick. Be not overwise in doing thy business, and boast not thyself in the time of thy distress. So it's no reason to being out here boasting on things, especially when you're in a lower state. What's the boast on in about your flesh? We should be humbling ourselves and coming to the remembrance of our iniquities, turning from those things and doing the works meet for repentance and putting in that work. It ain't no reason to boast. And you know you in need of things. So why would you boast? What's the point of that? What is that going to profit us? Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 8. We're going to take it to verse 8 all the way down to verse 11. He says, what have pride profited us? Or what good have riches without vaunting brought us? All those things are passed away like a shadow, and as a post that hasted by. Verse 10. And as a ship that passeth over the waves of the water, which when it is gone by, the trace thereof cannot be found, neither the pathway of the keel in the waves. Verse 11. Or as when the bird has flown through the air, there is no token of her way to be found, but the light air being beaten with the strokes of her wings, and parteth with the violent noise and motion of them. It passeth through, and therein afterwards no sign where she went is to be found. So we can clearly see here, there's no benefit to this. All these things are going to pass away. There's nothing to gain for being prideful, boasting on oneself, lifting yourself up on high. Eventually, all of that is going to come to an end. So we just need to make sure we out here trusting in the Most High, being led of His Spirit. That's why He tells us over here in 1 Peter. Let's go to 1 Peter, chapter 5, and verse 6. Humble yourself, therefore, under the mighty hand, under the mighty power of God, that He may exalt you in due time. Let's go to Ecclesiasticus, chapter 2, verse 15 down to verse 18. They that fear, they that desire the Creator, will not disobey his word. And they that love him, they that promise him, will keep his ways. They that desire the Creator will seek that which is well pleasing unto him. And they that love him, they that promise him, shall be filled with the law. Verse 17. They that desire the Creator will prepare their hearts and humble their souls in his sight, saying, we will fall into the hands, into the powers of the Lord, and not into the hands of men. For as his majesty is, so is his mercy. So we got to have a desire for God, not just doing something because we feel like we need to do it, but because we have a true desire for God and seeking him out with a pure heart, without deceit. So we can't be out here seeking after our own righteousness or trying to exalt ourselves for whatever reason, for either glory, fame, power, status. All those things are vain. They're all going to pass away as a shadow. So there's no reason for that. So let's go over here in Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, chapter 6 and verse 2. Astore not thyself in the counsel of thine own heart, that thy soul be not torn in pieces as a bull straying alone. Ecclesiasticus chapter 5. Up here to chapter 5, and we're going to hit verse 2. Follow not thy own mind and thy strength to walk in the ways of thy heart. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and verse 6. Trust in the Spirit of God with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. He's going to direct our paths. He's going to lead us. He's going to guide us. He's going to be that light unto our feet, a light unto our path. We can see that over here in Psalms 119 and 105. See that. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, unto my desires, and a light unto my path. See, this is what we should be trusted in while we on this walk. And the actions we have to be taking in everything. We have to trust the Spirit of God with all our heart. And he's going to direct us in the way that we should go and establish us. So let's go to Psalms chapter 40, verse 1 and verse 2. I waited patiently for the Spirit of God, and he inclined unto me and heard my cry. Verse 2. He brought me up also out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet, my desires, upon a rock, and established my goings. So the Spirit of God is going to set us up upon that rock, that foundation, and establish us. But what do we have to do? We got to be seeking him out, just as he told Solomon the same thing. Let's see that over here in 1 Chronicles chapter 28 and verse 9. And thou, Solomon, my son, know thou the God of thy father, and serve him with a perfect heart and with a willing mind. For the Spirit of God searcheth all hearts, and understandeth all the imaginations of the thoughts. We seen it earlier. He's going to search out the heart. If thou seek him, he will be found of thee. But if thou forsake him, he will cast thee off forever. So this is so important, because the Spirit of God, he's going to search out the heart. I mean, you can pretend to act like you have a heart towards God all you want to. You might fool men, but you ain't fooling God. You will be found out. And, you know, I ain't sitting here putting myself on a pedestal, because my heart is going to be searched out too, to see if I really got a heart for God. So I can't just sit here and tell y'all something and it don't apply to me, because we got to see this. Let's go over here to 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 27. He says, but I keep under my body and bring it into subjection. Lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. So everything that's being said, that all applies to me as well. I ain't just out here like I'm just throwing rocks at anybody. I got to make sure that I'm applying the same thing that I'm teaching and make sure that I'm doing what's required of me. So let's keep going. Let's go to not Malachi, Micah. Micah chapter 6 and verse 8. He have showed thee, O man, what is good, and what doeth the Spirit of God require of thee, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 12 and verse 13. And now, Israel, what doeth the Spirit of God that guide require of thee, but to fear, desire the Spirit of God that guide, to walk, to live in all his ways, and to love him, to promise him, and to serve the Spirit of God thy guide with all thine heart and with all thy soul, to keep the commandments of the Spirit of God and his statutes, which I command thee this day for thy good. So these are questions that we all need to be able to answer within ourselves. So we got to turn and reform our ways. Everything that he's telling us is not for our bad, but it's for our good. So we got to be considering these things. So let's hit Haggai chapter 1. And we're going to hit verse 5 down to verse 7. Now, therefore, thus saith the Spirit God of hosts, consider your ways. Verse 6. Ye have sown much and bring in little. Ye eat, but ye have not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Ye clothe you, but there is none warm. And he that earneth wages to put it into a bag with holes. Verse 7. Thus saith the Spirit of God of hosts, consider your ways. Now this right here, we really need to meditate on this. Like, really think about it. All these teachings that go out every day, all these lessons that's been put forth every week, how many times do we actually go back over them and study them? How many times do we meditate on them? Elder always telling us to meditate on it. Just meditate on it. So are we meditating on these things? Or are we as one who earneth wages to put it into a bag with holes? So this is something that we really need to be thinking about. We need to meditate on things. So let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 6 and verse 37. And then we'll go up to verse 36 and 35. Verse 37. Let thy mind be upon the ordinances of the Creator, and meditate continually in his commandments. He shall establish thine heart and give thee wisdom at thy own desire. Verse 36. Verse 36. And if thou seest a man of understanding, get thee betimes unto him. Verse 35. Be willing to hear every godly discourse, and let not the parables of understanding escape thee. So we need to be meditating on this word continually, day and night. And we got to make sure that we go into these feeders, these teachers over here at KJBU. That's what they're here for. He told us this over here in Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 15. And I will give you pastors according to mine heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. So we need to let our desires wear the steps of his door. That's his duty, to feed. He said, be willing to hear every godly discourse. So every day a teaching is going out. Every time a teaching goes out, we should be willing to be there. Get the word, learn it, study it, write it down. and get this knowledge. Every lesson, every class, everything, every biblical session that goes on, we should be willing to be there to gain some more information on what we need to do to get right with God. So I'm going to pull these last few verses and we're going to go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 39. And we're going to hit verse 1 down to verse 9. So, but he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies. He will keep the sayings of the renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. He will seek out the secrets of grave sentences, and be conversant in dark parables. He shall serve among great men, and appear before princes. He will travel through strange countries. For he hath tried the good and the evil among men. He will give his heart to resort early to the Creator that made him, and will pray and will confess before the Most High, and will open his mouth in prayer in his confession, and make supplication for his sins. When the great Lord will, he shall be filled with the spirit of understanding. He shall pour out wise sentences, and give thanks unto the Creator in his prayer. He shall direct his counsel and knowledge, and in his secrets shall he meditate. He shall show forth that which he have learned, and shall glory in the law of the covenant of the Lord, of the Creator. Many shall commend his understanding, and so long as the world endureth, it shall not be blotted out. His memorial shall not depart away, and his name, his way, shall live from generation to generation. So this is the actions we need to be taking, and this is what we need to be applying to our lives. So we need to consider our ways, we need to consider our speech, and the actions that we're taking with them. Because if we truly take a look in the mirror at ourselves, these are two things that will show us who we really are and what we are really about. So with that being said, hopefully this teaching was helpful to someone who's truly looking to convert their ways and truly seeking after God. So with that being said, I would like to say, Shalom.
Wow.